morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Monday. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. They're never long enough. They're never long enough. You know, Monday's always here, back to the grind. But hopefully you're able to do a few things, at least take your mind off of things. As always, a lot of things to talk about. What's going to happen? How high are rates going to go? Mortgage rates exploding higher again this morning. The longer side of the yield curve, as again we have to sell all of this debt, continues to put upward pressure. Is the Fed? The Fed is trying to go to an every other meeting for rate hikes, which would mean that, hey, we're not supposed to hike at the next meeting, but the data, at least so far, hasn't cooperated. And we have things like Yellow Freight going bankrupt. The UPS drivers, hey, we got to pay them $5,000 a year more for the next 5 years. Freight costs heading higher. Don't forget the UAW, right? Hey, those guys, hey, we want to go back, right? We need $40 an hour, and I get it, right? Hey, if we're going to be able to afford to buy one of these electric cars, right, you got to pay us more money. Food costs rising again, and even rents. Rents, obviously mortgages, because, now the 30-year mortgage at 7.25 before points, right? So it can be even higher than that. Yeah, inflation remains extremely, let's call it sticky, if that's the word they'd like to use. How about just flat out high? But you know what? Somebody that's been touting hey, rates are going to be higher than most people think, and I hope people are ready for it. That's my son Joey from Northwestern Mutual. And Joey, you've been saying this for a long time, that you thought rates were going to be higher than most people thought.
Yeah, we've been on this for a while, and when these rates go up, everything changes in the financial world. Mortgage rates are insane. The cost of living is tremendous. Everything is just getting more expensive, and it's putting a toll on a lot of different families and individuals. Last year, people took huge hits in their 401ks. This year, some people see their accounts recover, and we just need to make sure that as these changes are occurring, that we're taking some time to look at our financial plans and just making sure that we have the right strategy in place and that we're tackling the things that matter most to the individuals and families we're speaking to. And with all this stuff going on, all the smoke screen, it's been an absolutely crazy last 2 years. I think it's just super important for people to have that person in their corner that they can trust and rely on as all these crazy things are happening. Take some stress off of us, get us a picture of where we're at, and just lets you know our outlook on things. We've been pretty spot on things lately with the Federal Reserve and what's going on there, and math is math, right? Numbers don't lie. We're going to continue to increase it. We just need to make sure that we're on top of our plan. We're taking a look at it. But most importantly, we're partnering with people that care just as much about your plan as you do. I take a ton of pride in this, and probably too much pride in what I do. But it's super important to me to make sure that we're giving people the service that they deserve to have. And I don't share enough why I do what I do on the station here today, and I wanted to dive into that a little bit. I've always loved sports and competing, and was taught very early on that hard work always wins. And I love this career, and I'll never leave it because I'm competing for those individuals and families every day. It's something that's been able to fill that gap for me professionally. And it's just the growth we've seen in the 3 years of doing this from not only myself but our clients. Every year we're getting better. Every year people are putting themselves in a spot to achieve what they want to achieve and track for their goals. And it's just, I see the horror stories of people not starting early enough, didn't start, or thought, I don't have enough money to start a plan. And 10 times out of 10, there's always an opportunity to begin, no matter what your income is, no matter what you're saving. You don't need $1 million. You don't need $100,000, even $100 a month. We are helping people put a plan in place and making sure that they're in a better spot than they were yesterday. And it just means a ton to impact different communities, but not only clients, but their friends and families. Right? Not only are we helping out these people, but we're helping out their friends, their family, and making sure that their entire community is taken care of and giving them that financial education that so many people are lacking and that so many people overlook because, quite frankly, the government creates a toll on people with taxes, interest rate hikes, whatever it may be, and they create a smoke screen for people. And we're just someone to clear it up and make sure that you know exactly where you're at and help you put a plan in place to get where you need to be. And if you haven't reached out or you haven't chatted with us and you've been wanting to, you can just reach me at my personal cell, which is 602-909-9048. Again, that's 602-909-9048. Make that phone call if you want to partner up with someone who cares just as much about your financial plan as you do.
We'll be back with more with Joey. Stay with us on a Monday. (800-951-0592). Joe and Jason here, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Monday. We have Joey with us from Northwestern Mutual, and one of the things, and Joey's talking about, hey, it doesn't matter. Let me help you get started. Maybe you've already started. Let me help you maximize what you're doing. He's talked a bunch about taxes and tax havens and tax shelters for all of you getting closer to retirement, and big mistakes that are being made because they're not setting themselves up properly from a tax standpoint for when they do retire to inheritances, and worried about the health of the banks and the financial institutions, Wall Street. Joey, that's another feather in Northwestern Mutual's cap. Everybody knows who they are. You guys are a giant out there, but yet you're not a publicly traded company. You're not a bank. You actually got a better credit rating than the U.S. government.
Yeah, we are a fantastic company, top-rated financial company in the United States, not a bank. We're not having to please stockholders. We're mutually held. That means we're in the best interest of all of our policy owners and our clients. Right? Everything we do is to make sure we put our clients in a better spot, in a better position, and do what's right for them, which has allowed us to be just quite simply different than your classic financial institution. One huge statistic that I love and I always share with everyone I talk to is Northwestern Mutual averages 25-year relationships with their clients. The industry is averaging 2 to 5 years. We take a ton of pride in making sure that we give a full financial planning service. We take a look at everything, including estate planning, wills, trusts, etc., inheritance, making sure we're passing down our assets in the most tax-efficient way possible, to helping people spend down debt, acquire different home purchases, get into the real estate business. We do it all. And we're doing a ton of things that don't get paid, which allows us to keep clients for 25 plus years. We're not transactional. We're not going to implement one thing and then we never speak to you again. We really want to make sure that this becomes a personal relationship and that we get to know each other. And it's kind of funny how it works out. I end up knowing more about my clients than their best friends because they trust us and they know that we're not judging people. We're not financially undressing you. We're just figuring out what are your pain points, what is going on in life, what are we struggling with, and then help you put a plan together to combat that. And people leave our meetings super excited for the future because we should be. You make a couple tweaks, and it's pretty awesome to see how much in a better spot you will be in the future. And that's the value add we're bringing to people, is that we're helping you look at everything, show you how these different pieces of the puzzle all come together for you. Why are you utilizing a 401k? Well, how much should we put into it? How is it going to be taxed when I retire? Does my company have a Roth 401k? What are my benefits through work? What should I take advantage of, not take advantage of? What's our outlook on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid as we retire? What's going to be the cost of health insurance? Right, just rattling off a million things, and I could go on and on for hours. But we're someone taking a look at that. We're not going to overwhelm you or do analysis by paralysis, right? We're going to start and implement things one step at a time and make sure we just continue to add on or update the plan and be flexible as your life changes. Maybe something happens in your life and you're like, hey, I want to leave something behind for the grandkids, or I want to pay for the grandkids' education. Well, let's help you put a plan in place to do that. It's remarkable the things we do for clients, and seeing the growth of them after 3 years is fantastic to look at. And I think everyone here listening to KHNC Radio deserves to chat with someone and deserves to have that service to make sure that our community is taken care of and that all of us can have that retirement we desire, and just help us get in place, put some things in place for our midterm goals here in the next 5 to 10 years. So if you haven't reached out yet, as always, my door is open. Reach me at 602-909-9048. Again, that is 602-909-9048. And if I miss your call for whatever reason, please leave me a voicemail or a text message, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And I really look forward to working with a lot of you in the future.
Joey, before we let you go here, one quick question. So there's people out there, obviously, with the banking situation, interest rates going even higher than most people thought, which means more financial institutions, as we know, are now going to find themselves in trouble. They're already, when the Treasury Secretary and even the Federal Reserve presidents talk about, well, we need more banking consolidation. They don't say banks go under. They call it something else. It's just consolidating. But people are out there, they're scared, they're wondering, what to do. And one of the things, though, that they worry about, well, with the bank, I can always get access to my money, right? I can always, if I need $5,000, $10,000, I can get to it. If they come over to Northwestern Mutual, are they going to be able to have access to their money like they did in the bank?
100%. It's going to be the same access, if not easier. We're not going to be like, hey, if you have $200,000 in an investment account with us, and you're like, Joey, I need it all today. But we're not going to be like the bank and be stingy. We'll give it to you if you want it. Right, 3 to 5 business days, sometimes right away. One thing that people are loving right now are high yield savings accounts, money markets. As these interest rates grow, well, these are yielding around 4.5%. A lot of our clients are utilizing Northwestern Mutual's money market yielding 4.7%. And guess what? You can write checks out of that account just like you would a bank. We're very liquid. You have access to your money. Right? If money's in a 401k, well, we're not going to touch that till 60. But if you have different midterm investments set up, or you want to put money in a money market account, grow at 4.7%, that money's access to you right away.
So basically what I hear you saying, hey, if you've got money in the bank and the bank's giving you 4%, why are you leaving 0.7% on the table? And, of course, you guys, as rates go higher, you guys aren't like the banks. The banks hate giving more. You guys will immediately change it and give them more.
Yeah, we'll give them more. We're in such a great position in those debt accounts because we have so much cash on hand. It allows us to buy into these new debt securities as interest rates go up, getting a higher yield, which is why we got 4.7%. Some banks are at 4. Some are at 3. Some are still giving you 0.01. That's something to look at there. if you have a lot of money in savings and you're getting 3%, why leave 1.7 on the table? And why not have all of your money parked with someone who knows everything that's going on with your financial plan? And instead of having to call 6 different banks or 7 different advisors, you've got all your money housed at the strongest financial institution in the United States.
There you have it, Joey. Give out your number one last time before we let you go.
Yep. Reach me at my personal cell, 602-909-9048. Again, that's 602-909-9048. I look forward to chatting with listeners of KHNC Radio. And as always, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a phenomenal week.
There you have it. That was my son, Joey. And again, right, another reason, right, Jason, the having the least amount of exposure to your bank is probably, unfortunately, that we have to say it, it's probably the best strategy going forward when we talk about what's going to happen here. And all of us are, we don't know, right, how high are interest rates going to be of the Federal Reserve. Listen, let's put the blame where it belongs. This is the Federal Reserve's own doing. They're the ones that have created all of this money. They're the ones that left interest rates at 0 for 15 years and made these financial institutions very vulnerable. And now they're the same ones, Jason, that are dragging their feet and trying to get inflation under control.
Yeah, Joe, you've been talking about this for a while, especially since the inflation and the interest rates going up. I mean, I think it's really hard for the average person that doesn't do a little bit of homework and try to go through the self-schooling of understanding this stuff. But I mean, here's a stat, Joe. Here's another way of saying it that help you understand what's going on currently when it comes to the interest rate hikes that we talk. Maybe you get tired of you're listening to the shows. Oh, they keep talking about rate hikes. They keep talking about how that works with inflation, and I think some people don't get it. But I found this, Joe. I mean. Using firm-level data, check this out, on public companies since 1965. This is an estimate of the impact of higher interest rates from refinancing on capital spending and employment, okay? We find for every additional dollar of expense, this is for companies, okay? Firms lower their capital expenditures by 10% on labor costs. Wait a minute, capital expenditures by 10 cents and labor costs by 20 cents for every dollar of interest they spend. So which means when these interest rates go up a quarter point, well, this could be millions of dollars for a company, or even a bigger company, billions of dollars. That means 20 cents on the dollar they're going to take down labor costs. And when Joe talks about the labor, we're looking at those labor numbers, they're not coming up. Well, they're going to come up. This is happening. These rates are going up. They're not going down. They're not going to go down. The best thing you can hope for in the near term is for them to just stop raising. But this is going to cause all the destruction that the Fed has been wanting in the labor markets, and that means you listening. How strong is your job position, right, Joe? Because this stuff is yet to come for a lot of people.
Yeah, and we're talking a lot about commercial real estate. Matter of fact, another building now has sold, and this is not an old building. Another newer building in San Francisco. It's 11 stories high. Based on the tenant contracts that are signed, get this, the building, which is only 30% full, right now anticipates that it will be completely empty in 2025. In other words, the 30% that are still there, none of them have a lease beyond 2025. This building was valued at $121 million. Jason, it sold for 40. So again, another almost 70% haircut. And we talk about this a lot, but what we don't talk about is the other debt that's coming due. And these are for corporations. Hey, this is just our debt for whatever. We expanded. We took on debt to buy our stock back. We took on debt to launch some new R&D to get the latest and greatest technologies or whatever. We took advantage of really cheap rates. So we loaded up on debt. And Jason started. So right now, the commercial real estate market, we're right in the middle of it, right? Well, really, not even the middle. We're probably in the second or third inning of commercial real estate. And it really picks up steam in the next 12 months. And then from now for the next year, it's going to get really ugly. But Jason, what people don't realize is starting next year, a lot of these companies' corporate debt comes due because they handle it a lot very similar to how they handle the commercial real estate. Well, we borrow it cheap and we just pay the interest on it. We don't actually really pay anything off. And now just to refinance that debt is going to be awfully expensive.
Yeah, I'll give out the difference between corporate debt maturing this year versus next year when we get back. You know, so what happened this year with a few bank closures? Well, it should be 4 times worse next year at a minimum.
$800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. Quick look in at the markets here. Pretty flat. The Dow is up 5 points. The S&P, well, now it's down 10. It moved fluctuating here. The S&P is up. The NASDAQ is up about 80 points. The 10-year note off the highs, but still at 417. Gold is down $3 at $19.10. Silver also pretty flat, off about 10 cents here, $22.65. And again, if you're worried about what do I do with some of my money, don't forget about our friends over at YRefi, right? If you don't need access to your money, hey, I don't need to worry about this money for the next year to 5 years. It's a good place to check out. Up to 10.25% returns. It's fixed. You don't have to worry, right? It doesn't change. It's the same every month. You turn your income on. You can turn it off. You do what you want with it. And really, for me, I think part of the greater good, it just tells you how worthless the government is. That they deal in people that have defaulted on their student loans, right? They're deadbeats. They're scum of the earth, right? They've got credit scores in the 400s. They took down mom and dad with them, or grandma and grandpa, whoever co-signed as well. And they've got people, the average person at YRefi has their entire student loan debt paid off in 8.5 years. And I know that upsets all the people that have continued to pay. Hey, I'm just paying the interest. I'm paying less. I've been paying my student loan for 30 years. Kind of frustrating, isn't it? But that's the type of job they do. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or call them at 888-YRefi24 and let them know that Joe and Jason sent you. But Jason, we've been really laser focused on the small and what we'll call regional mid-sized banks, exposure to commercial real estate. And, again, I just did another story. Here's another office building, and not an old one. Another office building that, hey, it's only 11 stories high. It's going to be completely empty by 2025, just sold for a 70% haircut. But all of a sudden now, hey, there's another bomb around the corner. And again, this is the Fed's doing. What do you mean by that? Well, they left interest rates at zero for 15 years. People did what people do. Well, gosh, if you're going to make money that cheap, right, I'm going to borrow some, which is exactly why did the Fed have rates so low? They wanted you to go out and borrow money. They wanted you to get a new car. They wanted you to go buy that house. They wanted businesses to invest in themselves. But Jason, a little secret that they don't want to let out is not only do we got a problem with commercial real estate, but all of a sudden now these companies got to refinance that money that they've been borrowing for the last 15 years.
Right, corporate debt maturing, and it happens every year. It's an every year thing, you know. And then, as Joe has said many times, you refinance. So let me reset this up real quick, and I'll give you a real life example of how dangerous it is, so that the average person listening doesn't get lost in the numbers. What I read earlier, since 1965, from firm level data, and I'm going to tell you now, this stuff is way worse than 1965. I bet we're on a far worse curve. It says that we find that for every dollar of expense, firms lower capital expenditures, investment, by 10 cents, and labor by 20 cents. So just think about this. Big corporation now has to spend $1 million more on interest. Well, now how are you going to make that $1 million back? Well, 100,000 of that's going to be, we're not going to invest on some stuff. And then $200,000 of that stuff is labor. And here's how they break it down. Half of that is reduced employment, you're fired, and half of that is lower wages. Lower wages is really important. I know a gentleman who turned 70 and he doesn't have retirement lined up. He's not going to be able to retire. He's in a tech company, and he's got these 20 and 30-year-olds running around. And here he is 70 trying to keep his job. Okay? So when the corporate debt matures, the company's going to have to trim. And they're going to be looking at who they need to trim. And they might want the 30-year-old, the hot shot that's still learning. And they may want to get rid of the 70-year-old. This is how it affects you. Now, check this out. So we were talking before the break, $200 billion in corporate debt is maturing this year, which means these companies, these banks or whoever, they're going to have to borrow again, these big companies. Well, next year, with things being as close to the edge as they are this year, next year, over $800 billion in corporate debt is maturing. It goes up even more in 2025, stays that high in 2026, and comes down to about $600 billion for 27 and 28. It doesn't get back down to like the $400 billion in maturing debt until 2029. Where are the rates going to be? We don't have a guarantee that the rates are going to come down. They keep saying, well, I was listening to this guy, RG Talks, on the YouTube channel. He said, well, when the unemployment gets to 4%, then we're going to see the rates finally halt, and maybe they'll consider taking the rates down. But, Joe, they may not be able to because of inflation. You always got to remember, this is happening with inflation, and inflation just maybe says, well, Fed is not going to lower rates. Job destruction, Joe, is coming in a big way, and it's going to grind for a while, and then maybe next year it goes off like a bomb, Joe. Yellow trucking. We're going to have quite a few more of those on the horizon, Joe.
Yeah, and again, think about the things that they'll do, right? Because what Jason is saying is, hey, well, we've got to roll this debt over. And unlike commercial real estate, right, it's tied to that building. As long as the company is still making some dollars and still profitable, they're like, okay, well, we'll let you roll it. Now it's gonna. The problem is the rate they're rolling it at, right? Well, we rolled it at 3% 7 years ago. We rolled it at 3% 5 years ago. Well, sorry guys, you're gonna have to roll it at 8 now. Gosh, that's a lot more cost. Right, that's going to go right out of the profits of the bottom line, and what Jason is telling you is when this happens to corporations, they always do the same thing. Right, the biggest piece of the puzzle that they go after in offsetting that cost is labor. To Jason's point, we'll fire the guy that makes more, hire a guy that makes less. Hey, you know what, you guys. We're gonna have a round of layoffs, or hey, you know what? You guys, a lot of you guys are hourly. Tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna go out and as a retailer, as an example, or maybe you're a restaurant. Hey, cut hours by 10%. Well, that means hey, you're gonna work 5 less hours a week. You're gonna work 10 less hours a week, right? This is what's going to happen, and really make the slowdown cycle even worse. This is coming no matter what happens because they got to roll this stuff over. We'll be back after the break. Up there you go, 800-951-0592. You got to turn your mic on to make this thing work. Today's special, so on gold, again, it's $10 Liberties. They're just the best price. I mean, don't be mad about it. Be happy about it, right? Why would a fractional piece be? Why is 2 10s cheaper than a 20? Who knows? But don't look a gift horse in the mouth. $10 Liberties. These are the pre-1933, and really Liberties, 1866 to 1907. 1 through 9 at 1,080. 10 or more at 1,075. On the silver side, rolls of silver dimes back at that $100 level. So rolls of silver dime, 50 silver dimes for $100. A $10 Liberty, 1 through 9 at 1,080. 10 or more at 1,075. At 800-951-0592. And guess what? There's another payment coming due. So think about this. Okay, commercial real estate, we know that's a problem. Every one of these loans that comes up, they're underwater. They've got a problem. A lot of them, like that tower in San Francisco, that was ineligible to be refinanced. It was ineligible to be refinanced. Why? Because the bank said, well, they're only 30% full. And in the next 18 months, it's going to be totally empty. You don't have any revenue. Nope, no loan. So they were forced to sell and lose 70%. Right then, now Jason's talking about, big spike coming for corporate debt, right? And corporate debt, listen, they just go after labor. That's what they do. Well, we got to pay more. You know, we borrow $500 million and we borrow $1 billion every year. It's on our books. It's been on our books for years. We just roll it. Well, last 15 years, anytime we had to roll it, and we rolled it at a super low rate. Now here comes the new high rates. They're going to swing the axe one way or another, right? They're going to fire the expensive employee, hire a cheaper one. They're going to cut hours. They're going to lay off. That's what they're going to do. And then let's not forget this one. Starting in 2 weeks, on the federal side of student loans, the interest starts accruing again. The interest starts accruing again, and then on October 1st, it will then be mandatory. You have to start making those payments again. You should start this month before the interest starts hitting you, but you have to by October 1. Here's what the numbers say. 56% of these student loan borrowers say they can't do both. Listen, I can either buy groceries, pay my utilities, pay my bills, or pay my student loan. Right? I can either pay my student loan or I won't be able to have enough food to eat. I can either pay my student loan or pay my rent, right? I don't have enough money to do both. And here's the problem, Jason. It's been this way for 3 years. So what do these people do? Right? What they should have done, right? Hey, don't, if you didn't want to pay it, put that money in an account, set it aside. Right? So that way, hey, I can't really use that money. That's not what people do. What do? They start spending it on something else. Right? What did they do? Hey, I got a lot more credit card debt now. I moved to a nicer place. I bought a better car. Jason, they don't have the money.
Right. Money is becoming more and more scarce, you know, and unfortunately we spend a really bad form of money, Federal Reserve notes, that's borrowed into existence, and then we pay interest on this debt when it can simply just be created by the Treasury. This is how it works. I can't wait. Here in the near future on the Half Empty Cup of Joe, I'm going to be running a show on Aaron Russo. I've just been digging further and making sure to remind myself how he understood this and how he went out and actually did a lot of work to prove to people how fraudulent and corrupt this whole system is, Joe. And unfortunately, with a bad money scheme, but a debt money scheme, you got to create more money for it to work. They're not creating more money at this moment in time that we know of to functionally make everybody in a good place. Joe's telling you about school loans having to be paid back. Well, that's not good for someone who's probably barely paying the bills. How long, Joe, have some of these people not been paying their school loans? You just get into a habit of, okay, that's just not on my list now. And then suddenly there it is. It's like buying a car, but you don't have a car because you're back to paying the loans, the school loans. And this is how it is done. This is how the people, the people on the bottom serve the people on the top, because they have a system in place to milk you like a cow, and there's nothing left except for just enough food, just enough shelter. It's why you buy gold and silver. It's one way to escape this cycle. You have to get yourself into some savings. If you are saving nothing, you are damaging your future, because you will have a day of reckoning, like a lot of Americans, Joe. And, hey, I'm secure in my job. Do you want to know how many secure jobs are? There's very, very few secure jobs, right? Jobs are just not secure anymore. Maybe in the past, but the jobs are not secure anymore. A company has problems, you are fleeced. You work for them. And if you don't protect yourself with what you're earning, then you're putting yourself up for a day of reckoning that you're not going to enjoy. And then you're going to look around and it's like, oh, whose fault is it? You're going to be pointing fingers at everybody else. Everybody's day of reckoning, Joe, for the most part, you can just blame yourself. You got to do something to protect yourself. You have to get smart and know how to do these things. And gold and silver, that's how you save your money. You put it in gold and silver, Joe.
800-951-0592. Jason and I coming right back, wrapping up a Monday. Eight 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason wrapping up this Monday, and just over the break, just like that, got another opportunity. So we got 3 different items on sale today. We got rolls of silver dimes. Okay, this is government hallmark pre-1965 silver dimes, minted obviously by the U.S. Mint. Those are at $100. It's a great price. It's a great price. Not even $28 an ounce. Great price. We got $10 Liberties. 1 through 9 at $1,080. 10 or more at $1,075. Another fantastic price. And now we have assorted silver rounds. We don't get to say, but they'll be, Buffalo rounds, Merc dime rounds, something like that. But these are just non-government hallmarked 1 ounce silver coins. They're at $535. So think about what's the difference between, say, a 1 ounce round and a 1 ounce American Silver Eagle. 1 ounce, a roll of 20 Silver Eagles today, $605. By the way, another great price, $605. Same amount of silver in the rounds, 20 ounces, 20 coins. They're just not minted by the government. Right? There's no, doesn't have a $1 face value, doesn't have a face value, but they are, otherwise, Jason, it's the same amount of silver in a Silver Eagle, I guess, but you don't get the government price on it. Now, I'll be honest with you. When you sell back silver rounds versus Silver Eagles, you get less for them. So it kind of stands to reason they'll cost you less. But right now, we've got a really hot price on silver rounds, $535 on silver rolls of silver rounds today. So we got great specials across the board at 800-951-0592, Jason.
That's right. Yeah, you buy cheap silver on the front end. It's a little cheaper when you sell it on the back end. When you buy expensive silver on the front end, you get a little more on the back end. So it doesn't. What you're doing here is you're saving money on the front end. You get silver that's cheaper than Silver Eagles, and it's a really great price. Silver's come back a little bit, gold's come back a little bit. Is it going to come back more? Personally, I don't really care. Whenever I buy, I just buy when I have the money available to buy it, because it goes down, it goes up. You just don't know, and timing it is kind of silly because you just don't know, right? And we know over the timeline, inflation is built in. The Fed controls the monetary system. They've built inflation in so they can steal from us. So you better believe they're going to keep on doing that. Who doesn't want easy money? So this is your way to protect yourself and your savings from that, because silver will always increase in value versus the dollar because of the inflation. So 605 is what you said, Joe, for a roll of silver rounds. That's 20 ounces of silver. That's
535 on the silver rounds. 605 on the silver eagle. Yeah.
See, I already messed it up. 535 for silver rounds. That's the cheapest silver rounds I can remember for many years. So, yeah, and I'll try to. I have a pretty good way of memorizing some of these numbers. And in a couple of years, I will remind everybody why you weren't saying, "Hey, that was a good time back in 2023." That's, it's kind of slow and people weren't buying as much. And we kept telling people, this is what you buy right now. Don't wait. We'll see, Joe. Right? We'll see how many people are going to order these things. We'll see.
That's it. 800-951-0592. Jason and I were coming right back with the Monday edition of the Half Empty Cup.